It's just another sunny California morning on February 28, 1997, in the San Fernando Valley region of Los Angeles. Suddenly, a white Chevrolet careens around a corner of the sleepy North Hollywood neighborhood and screeches to a halt outside the Bank of America. Two armed men outfitted in intimidating dark body armor and sinister masks leap out, lock and load their fully automatic rifles, and stride toward the entrance. Over the next 44 minutes, Larry Eugene Phillips Jr. and his comrade Emil Decabal Matasareanu will unleash a level of violence the LAPD had never encountered before, igniting one of the most dramatic and devastating gun battles in law enforcement history. This is the story of how two heavily armed robbers unleashed mayhem in Los Angeles, in a brazen daylight heist that devolved into an all-out urban war zone. This is the North Hollywood shootout. The robbery begins just after opening at 9:17 a.m. when the pair stride into the Bank of America branch, clad in makeshift armor and sinister masks. Brandishing their rifles, they fire a burst into the ceiling and order everyone onto the floor, making clear they mean business. The terrified bank employees and patrons instantly comply with the threatening gunmen, but quickly the bandits' plan begins unraveling when a hidden anti-theft die pack explodes in the bag of stolen cash, spooking the robbers. They frantically gather up the stained money before fleeing outside, already falling behind schedule. Nearby LAPD officers observing the suspicious scene call for backup and give chase as the robbers speed away in their getaway car. The bandits barrel through the surrounding residential side streets, trying to lose the growing fleet of squad cars in hot pursuit, sirens wailing. Realizing escape is impossible, the cornered criminals make the fateful decision to initiate one final standoff and shootout rather than be taken alive. The stage is set for a confrontation that will paralyze this Los Angeles neighborhood and embroil hundreds of officers in a terrifying battle. The first responding officers are stunned by the immense firepower and armor protecting these perpetrators. It's instantly clear these are not men that will peacefully surrender. The patrolmen scramble for any cover they can find, calling frantically for backup as the heavily armed assailants open fire on the officers. The sudden deafening bang of fully automatic machine gun fire shatters the calm of the sunny morning. Bullets pepper the squad cars and concrete walls shielding the pinned-down officers. The hopelessly outgunned police return fire when opportunities arise but struggle to even slow the onslaught of these remorseless assailants. Soon the air hangs heavy with sirens and gun smoke. Hundreds of officers and SWAT members race urgently toward the unfolding chaos. For now, they remain at the mercy of these two heavily armed men as the infamous North Hollywood shootout begins and the neighborhood turns into a war zone reminiscent of a battlefield. Standard-issue police handguns and shotguns prove ineffective against the robbers, protected by their improvised body armor and wielding military-grade firepower. Bullets ricochet wildly off concrete, pierced through metal and nipped dangerously at the pinned officers' heels. They relentlessly blaze through hundreds of rounds of ammunition, outgunning the overpowered police. By the time the shooting would stop, Phillips and Matasareanu had fired about 1,100 rounds, approximately a round every 2 seconds. Officers struggle just to get a shot off as they cower and hide from the relentless barrage of lead. As the firefight creeps up and down the once peaceful residential boulevard, it catches innocent civilians and bystanders in the crossfire. 8 civilians were injured in total. Nearby residents run panicked as the battle draws ominously closer to their homes. Police urgently evacuated many shops and apartments in the area to get bystanders out of harm's way. Teams desperately search for any angle to halt the progress of these entrenched shooters, pinning down scores of officers. The perpetrators seem impossible to stop, even firing at nearby helicopters observing from above. It becomes overwhelmingly clear that the standard police armaments are no match for the overwhelming militancy of these two criminals. While still in the parking lot, Matasareanu was shot in the right buttock, the right leg, and the left forearm. A fourth projectile then lacerated his upper right eye socket and prompted him to duck behind the hood of the getaway car in shock. He subsequently abandoned his duffel bag of money, entered the getaway vehicle, and started the engine to go. Phillips retrieved the HK-91 from the open trunk and continued firing upon officers while walking alongside the sedan, using it for cover. As Phillips approached the passenger side of the getaway vehicle, he was hit in the shoulder and his rifle was struck in the receiver and magazine by bullets fired by police. After firing a few more shots with one arm, Phillips discarded the HK and retrieved the Norinco Type 56 before exiting the parking lot and retreating onto the street while Matasareanu drove down the road. At 9:52 a.m., Phillips turned east on Archwood and took cover behind a parked semi-truck, where he continued to fire at the police until his rifle jammed. Unable to clear the jam because of the gunshot wound to his wrist, he dropped the rifle and drew a Beretta 92 pistol. He was then shot in the right hand by Officer Conrado Torres, causing him to drop the pistol. After retrieving it, he placed the muzzle under his chin and fired. As he fell, Officer John Caparelli shot him in the upper torso, severing his spine. Either bullet may have been fatal. Matasareanu's vehicle was rendered inoperable after 2 of its tires were shot out and the windshield covered in bullet holes. At 9:56 a.m., he attempted to carjack a vehicle on Archwood by shooting at the driver, who fled on foot, but was unable to operate the Jeep due to the driver engaging the electrical kill switch before fleeing. It was here Matasareanu made his final stand. In the aftermath, the LAPD picks through the battle's carnage in dismay. Hundreds of shell casings litter the ground, and vehicles sit scarred and riddled with bullet holes. In total, 12 officers on top of those 8 civilians sustained injuries during the chaos. But miraculously, none other than the gunmen were killed. The LAPD realizes its standard armaments and training were vastly outmatched by these 2 criminals wielding military firepower. Extensive reviews and reforms of equipment guidelines, tactical procedures, and officer training regimens follow. The terror inflicted on North Hollywood spurs California legislators to quickly restrict civilian access to assault weapons and body armor. But controversy also swirls around the aggressive tactics and excessive return fire unleashed by the police in a dense residential zone. In the neighborhood itself, bullet holes and traumatic memories linger for years. This shocking event leaves indelible scars on the city and its police force. The story of Phillips and Matasareanu persists as a cautionary lesson in the annals of American violent crime. The North Hollywood shootout rocked the LAPD and law enforcement agencies across the country down to their very core. Many authorities call it one of the most frightening and overwhelming gun battles in United States history. For 44 terrifying minutes, 2 figures, equipped with modified firearms and gear, unleashed chaos and warfare on a bustling metropolitan neighborhood. Hundreds of outgunned police officers were pinned down, overwhelmed, and left utterly powerless to stop the mayhem and destruction. Entire apartment blocks morphed into combat zones as the community was turned upside down. The shocking militant firepower and improvised armor of the 2 enabled them to hold an entire city under siege and resist every attempt to halt their attack.